All right, JoeyRitter.com, on Twitter at Joey Ritter. Fantastic guest today. You know him, you love him, Mr. Jeremy Myers, owner, founder of the Philadelphia-based Jumpstart Records. Jeremy, it's great to see you again. How are you?
How's it going, Joey?
You can't see me. We're having a little bit of a Skype thing here, but I can see
Oh,
you
it's all
just
good,
fine.
man. I know what your sexy ass looks like.
Yeah, you're still a handsome devil yourself, and you got your Neshaminy Creek hoodie on.
I was at work today,
so
I'm wearing the hoodie.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, Jumpstart Records. Been doing it for quite a while. How long has Jumpstart been active for?
The first official release came out in September of 1996, so this would be our 17th year.
That's great. Now take me back to September of 1996. You know, you're just, I don't know how old you are at that time, but you think to yourself, okay, I'm just going to start a record label?
Well, I was 21 at the time. I was a sophomore in college, and I mean, I wouldn't say it wasn't like one of those things where I just started like when I was a sophomore. I would say a lot of the stuff I had done as a freshman had built up to it. Like, you know, back when you actually didn't have email or websites, you had to write letters to people like, hey, you know, where'd you press this record or how did you press this record? I'm thinking about doing this. Like what people do nowadays, but like it was, I don't want to say you had to put more time and effort into it, but writing a letter and putting it in an envelope and putting a stamp on it, it's a lot more difficult than writing an email and sending it away to someone saying, you know, hey, how'd you do this? And then not only that, to get a response was a lot, you know, and obviously involved a lot more, you know, energy and response, you know, just from someone else, you know, being involved in that situation too, as opposed to email. So, I mean, I would say my freshman year in college it built up to that.
Now, how did it become, you know, an idea, something you were trying to get information about, to like being a legit thing? Because you got yourself established real well. You know, what was that point where you're like, wow, this is actually a thing? You know, like I'm getting demo submissions. This is great.
I don't know if I can even actually pinpoint a time specifically when. Maybe like I guess maybe not too long after we got a PO box and we started getting demos. I guess that that would have been 97, not 98. I think is when we actually had our own official. I mean, between that and back when like it was a big deal to get your own .com because it was hard to get a .com.
Yeah.
Not hard, but it was like, oh my God, you have your own your own domain. Now it's like everyone you can just go to GoDaddy and you can get a domain in like 5 minutes. Back then it was like a little bit more, involved, and you actually had to research a little bit, like how do you actually get a domain?
Yeah, back then it was angelfire.com/PA/pump/4750 Jumpstart.
The official first Jumpstart website was actually on a service provider in a state college called LaserLink, and it was laserlink.com or laserlink.net because they had both domain endings. Laserlink.com / what is that? Tienda. J-Start.
Was it tilde?
Tilde, excuse me. And the reason, I mean, if you don't know this, the reason why tildes aren't used anymore because it's not an internationally accepted symbol. But
it's the worst. It's the worst possible symbol to have in a URL. I had a tilde in my band.
In the beginning of the internet, the more commercial internet in the late '90s, that was actually something that was in most people's website addresses. So it was that J-Start. And actually, I think up until like maybe 2 or 3 years ago that they had it cached on their servers because it's still a service provider in state college, and they had it cached on their servers, and you can actually go to it and you can see the horrible GeoCities-like page that was up in 1998.
Well, actually, Google did an awesome thing a couple years ago where I think it was like for their 10th anniversary where you could search Google what it was in 1998 or whenever it started, and websites that existed back then. It was awesome. And then, because I found my old band's website, which is way defunct, and it was there when you could do the search, and it's not there anymore, and it kind of sucks.
You know what? I don't know if it was cached or if they just have kind of kept it up for posterity's sake, is Vince Kozlek's PA ska page. I don't know if you remember that. That was a really, really good resource for bands and clubs and.
Now that's not the PA punk page, right?
Oh, different. It was pasca.com, I think, but it was also I don't want to say it started on a GeoCities page. It might have. It was something along those lines. But Vince is still living in PA. But actually, I saw the contact information on the website, and I meant to drop an email because I haven't talked to him in the longest time. But I mean, that page in some shape or form has been around for 15, 16 years, which is kind of crazy. And as far as independent music on the internet is concerned.
Sure. Now, you got a lot of great releases coming out. One of them being Plow United.
Mhm.
That drops what, April?
April 2nd.
Very excited for that album. I've had Joel on the show. And I'll tell you, Jeremy, I'm friends with you and I've had Joel on the show, but I will still be going to the website, entering my PayPal information and buying the album. I'm not going to try to weasel a free copy out of you. But
The cool thing about vinyl is you can't. Well, you could weasel one out of me anyway, Joe. But I mean, it's harder to weasel, vinyl than it is to, just go on Google and type in the name of a record and download it for free nowadays. So.
Right. Now, Jeremy, I remember having an instant message conversation with you a couple of years ago, and I believe in that conversation, I don't know for sure the quote, but I believe you said something, you've never illegally downloaded MP3s. Is that a fact?
That's definitely not a fact. Maybe at the time, because I'd have to know how long ago that was. I don't do it often if I do.
I don't. I've had that like 5 years in my head. I think in capital letters, you're like,
maybe 5 years ago I didn't, because at the time I definitely would say. And I'm not defending myself, because I will definitely say I have illegally downloaded records. But 5 years ago, I think maybe that would have been the case. I hadn't, because 5 years ago, it was a lot harder to go to just Google and type in the records you wanted.
All right, now I'm going to shift gears on you a little bit. You are an Eagle Scout, Jeremy.
Yes, I am.
I'm not too familiar. I when I was a kid, there were Cub Scouts. What's the scouting? The white belt, the black belt. What's that whole process there?
Well, you started off by mentioning that I'm Eagle Scout. That's the highest level you can achieve.
That's the black belt.
That's the black belt. There's different badges in each group. So, like, for example, like if you're in Cub Scouts, there's different badges. The highest being Weeblos. Well, actually, the highest being the Order of the Arrow, but Weeblos would be the highest rank. And then there's like kind of sort of like a next in between rank that's in between Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts called not Order of the Arrow. It's Arrow of Light. Excuse me, Jesus. Arrow of Light is in between being a Weeblo Scout and being a Boy Scout, and it has to do with age too. You can only be a Boy Scout between the ages of 12 and 18, and then I think Cub Scouts is 8 to 12. I can't remember the specifics on that.
Right.
But so like if you were Arrow of Light or Weeblos, that would be the highest in Cub Scouts. And for the record, I was never an Arrow of Light. I was only a Weeblo. I didn't. It's actually kind of funny because the requirements, a lot of I'd have to look at them again. It's been obviously years, but the requirements for Arrow or Light are actually some of the basic requirements just to be a scout. It's like knowing the scout oath and stuff like that, and
So do you have to do any skills or anything to move up, or is it just
each rank and each badge in Boy Scouts requires certain skills. For the first. It's changed a little bit. I'd actually have to look at it. I know that they've changed the requirements. I don't know when the last one was. I want to say it was probably like 98, 97, but it's probably changed even since then. They've kind of aligned them a little bit different, but like it can be a combination of like just the scouting morals or scouting, knowing the scout, the scout law, scout oath, all that stuff, or also knowing basic stuff like not dying. And then as you go up in rank in Boy Scouts, there's a certain amount of merit badges that are required. So, for example, like to be an Eagle Scout, you have to have 21 merit badges. Either 11 are required and 10 are non-required. It's either 11 are required and 10 are non-required.
Seems like a lot.
It is. It's not a small amount, but if you like, for me, I worked at a summer camp 1 year, and I got like a lot of them. Not all required. Remember, there's certain ones that are required, but I got a bunch of them that summer because I was able to, being what they call a counselor in training, you are able to work half the day on merit badges, and half the day you had to work as a counselor in training. But you're there all summer, as opposed to like if you're not on staff and you're just a camper, you're there for 1 week. So I was there for the entire summer, so I was able to work on a lot of merit badges that summer. But also as you go, like for example, for Eagle Scout, you have to do a service project. So it's usually a community based service project. That's something that benefits the community. So you have to do that. It has to be approved by your scoutmaster.
What was your community event?
My service project was there were several cemeteries in the township that I was living in. At the time, actually, I got my Eagle badge in Ohio. I had done the majority of the work in New Jersey, but my family had moved to Ohio for my sophomore and junior year in high school. So by the time I had moved out there, I had already had all the merit badges and everything else ready. I just had to do my service project. So I was in a new troop and all that other stuff. So it took me a little bit to adjust to new friends. It's sort of like going to a new school. It's the same thing with a new troop. You have the same adjustment. And then for me, I had to do my service project. You can pick it. The cool thing is you can actually pick it yourself, and the only determining factor is whether or not the scoutmaster and the troop approves it. Usually you have like a board of review in your troop that reviews those projects, and they deem it worthy or not. And I mean, I think it's important because they see the importance of the project itself as whether or not it's something that's going to benefit the community. And that's the most important aspect and factor of the project. But for me, it was I was living in a township out in Ohio, and they had 4 cemeteries that weren't mapped at all. They didn't have current records of who was buried in any of the cemeteries. Well, not like it's not that they didn't know some people that were
didn't
buried.
say their names on the gravestones, or
Well, not so much you couldn't see the names of gravestones, but they had some of the graves went back to like the mid to late 1800s.
Okay.
And they didn't have any record of those people being buried in the cemetery. So they had Civil War, and I think actually I want to say there was a few Revolutionary War veterans that had died in the early late 1830s that were buried in the cemetery. People that actually pioneered Ohio and had come out and moved from over the mountains and started to settle the country after the Revolutionary War. There was not many of them. There might have been maybe less than 5 or 6 in the one cemetery that I had the map, but they didn't have any records of any of those older graves. They had current ones, but they didn't have and by current I'd say the past 20, 30 years, but they didn't really have a good solid, not just the records, but they had no plot. They didn't, if they said if John Smith had died in 1905 and was buried in this cemetery, they might know that John Smith is buried in this cemetery, but they had no plot or map of where the graves were. So what I actually did is I led a team. The original idea was to do all 4 cemeteries in the township, but it became pretty quickly evident that it was going to be impossible to catalog all 4 cemeteries with. I mean, I had a team of between 6 and 8 scouts, and that's the other cool thing is you also show you're supposed to show leadership skills in this, is that you're supposed to quote unquote recruit people from your troop to participate in this, and you're supposed to lead them. And that's for me it was, hey guys, you want to stand out in a cemetery and take the names and dates of off all these gravestones and mark them down on this map and this plot, so we can catalog this cemetery. So
that seems like a tough sell there, Jeremy.
It was. It wasn't that hard. Probably the hardest. The cemetery wasn't spooky or anything like that. But the hardest sell was I was doing it in the fall, so it was starting to get colder, and it actually I remember one time it was snowing while we were out doing it. So that the weather would be a tougher sell than anything. But yeah, I think there's a lot of really positive things that come from scouting, even though I'm not really all that happy with the way Boy Scouting has not done the right things in the past. Yeah. Well, particularly lately, I'm a pretty vocal advocate actually about that, and I think there's a lot of other vocal scouters and Eagle Scouts that are vocal about the gay ban that I think it's completely ridiculous. And I think actually, it goes beyond that too. There's a lot of the religious aspects of scouting that I think that they, that's a completely different,
There's religious aspects of scouting?
Well, yeah, it's sort of like, in God we trust, it's not, on coins and, the separation of church and state in our government is, you see that on coins. That's not really an organized religion. It's just God. So, right. But there is parts of Boy Scouting that you're supposed to believe in God. And that's actually one of the main reasons why you're having the problems with the organization taking a step towards, removing the gay, the gay ban, the ban on gays and homosexuals and scouting, it's all religious based. It's based on the founding of that, and I really don't like that because I don't think you have to be. I think what scouting gives young adults is more important than the religious aspects that are still a part of scouting. There's a lot you can get out of scouting, a lot of positive things, and I think that it's just really, really completely underserved in our society these days. The things that you can, the things that scouting provides are so positive, and then it's not being provided by, not that I expect it to be, provided by government organizations, but it's not being provided by communities and stuff like that. Sure. Wholesale. There's so many positive things that I think if you just get past that and see how ridiculous that is, and all the good positive stuff you get, all this other stuff should be changed because it's just dumb. If they don't change, scouting is going to be gone, and I think scouting gone is a bigger loss and a bigger problem than scouting being here, and all these dumb ideas about banning homosexuals and things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of adults now that are peers of mine that were scouts when they were kids, and I don't know. I feel like that they're good at like home improvements and stuff that I'm not good at. I'm not a handyman, and I feel like
there's definitely skill sets that you learn in scouting that you wouldn't learn otherwise. But not only that, I mean, I think one of the biggest aspects that I don't know, a lot of people that I consider close friends that I still hang out with, all the time are guys that I met in Boy Scouts. Guys that I was in, either. They were in my troop, or guys that I met, working in a summer camp. They're guys. These are people that are like my close friends, more so than one of them just happened to be, one of my closer friends that I was in Boy Scouts with. Obviously went, not obviously, but went to my high school. But like he's one of the few people in my high school that I still talk to, on a regular basis. Whereas a better way to put it is I talked to more guys that I was, I met through scouting, or I, was in a troop with, or was on staff with at a summer camp. They're my friends now, more so than people that I was in high school with. I have more friends from scouting than I keep in touch more with friends from scouting than I do from friends from high school.
Well, even still, I mean, it's like, I don't know how old you were when you did the gravestone thing. But just doing that at a teenage age, or however old you said you were a sophomore in high school, I think.
I was 17 at the time.
Okay, so you're 17 years old, and then you start the record label when you're 21. When I was 21, I was ambitious. I started a lot of things, but I would never start my own record label when I was 21 years old. Like those skills of organizing a team and doing all that, I think that like kind of was how you built the label up. And
most people don't think about it all that much. I mean, I did think about going into the military, at the end of high school. I'm almost positive that I didn't have a father that was in Vietnam. I probably would have gone into the military, because I wanted to. It's something that interested me. And ironically enough, it's not something that's like publicized on the recruiting posters. But if you're an Eagle Scout, you get an automatic pay raise as a private in the Army, because of your being an Eagle Scout. And more than likely, if I had wanted to like become an officer, I would have been probably looked at more favorably because I was an Eagle Scout. It's something. It's not talked about when you walk into a recruiting office, but when they find out that you're an Eagle Scout, it's like, all right, because I mean, I would be a liar to say that there aren't aspects of being in Boy Scouts that are very military-like.
Sure.
There is, and that's fine. It's not like it's not like you have the drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket screaming at you. It's nothing like that. But there are aspects that are military-like. If you like being outdoors, obviously too, there's that aspect that is obviously very similar to being in the Army that go hand in hand. So it makes sense to me. Why I would get paid an extra like $200 a month because I'm an Eagle Scout. Didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But I mean, I can see why. Hindsight, obviously. I see it. At this point, it's 21 years later. I was 17. What's that?
It's no different than doing an internship.
No, it's really no different than doing an internship.
Is she making chocolate milk? I hear like spoons and glasses turning and stuff.
She might have been doing the dishes, which I'm supposed to do. So, no, but it's
Mrs. Myers, everybody. Big round of applause.
She just changed her name, actually. It's official now.
Takes them a while to do that, doesn't it?
I told her not to. I don't know why she wanted to. For all the pain and hassle it is, I was like, for me, I was like, what, who cares? Actually, one of my really good friends from Boy Scouts, his wife never changed her name. And I was like, that's why I said to Chris, I was like, don't bother changing your name. It's just gonna be a bigger hassle that you gotta change. Your driver's license, your credit card, all those things. It just doesn't make sense to do it. I'm not offended if you don't take my name.
Yeah, I'm kind of a self-centered guy. I wanted her to change her name, but
What we should have done, and is actually I just saw it was happen in the state of Florida, where it's becoming more and more common that men are now taking their wives' name. And in the state of Florida, recently, I'm going to butcher the story, but it has to do with a man who took his wife's name, and then I'm not going to totally butcher the story because now I remember it. A man took his wife's name, and then the state suspended his driver's license because they said that it was a false ID or false. He was frauding it was like it was a fake person or fake
Right.
name because they didn't believe, the state of Florida didn't believe that he was taking his wife's name, so they actually suspended his driver's license, and he had to hire a lawyer and take the state of Florida to court to get his driver's license back, as well as like other things that were associated with the DMV and whatnot. But like the DMV did not believe him and wouldn't believe that. Why would a man take
right.
his name? And for some dumb reason, it's actually much more difficult for a man to change his name in those circumstances than it is a woman because of the traditions and all these stupid stereotypes that go along with the expectation that a woman should change her name. And that's, to me, one, while I am proud that my wife took my name, I always joke around it's probably the best thing she got out of the deal.
Get an easier last name.
She definitely got an easier last name because her name is always butchered. But, the hassle, I don't take it as like, a better way of, I don't want to sound like super feminist or like leftist, but like there is a sense of ownership in someone taking your name. And I've never seen it as that. It's dumb. To me, the best reason that my wife had for changing her name is that honestly, my name's a lot easier to pronounce than her last name. So in the end, maybe I would like to think the hassle's worth it. But other than that, it's just dumb. It doesn't make any sense.
At the time I was getting married in 2009, I was doing a lot. She does a lot of the cooking and cleaning now, but I was doing the bulk of the cooking and cleaning. So I was like, I had to feel more like a man. I was like, what, you change your name, that's the way it's going to be. All right, Jeremy, we're going to do everybody's favorite segment on JoeyRitter.com called Turn It Up or Turn It Off. And what I'm going to do is name 5 songs, and I want you to tell me simply if you turn it up or turn it off.
As long as they're all AC/DC songs, we're turning them up.
No, I knew that about you. I didn't put any AC/DC songs on here. All right, your first song is Flash Dance. What a feeling.
See, man, that's not one of those things you can say yes or no to. It depends on what kind of mood I'm in, man.
That's why this segment is so brilliant, Jeremy.
I'd have to say, in every state besides inebriation, that's a turn it down.
I'm sorry, turn it down is not an option. Turn it off, you're saying.
Oh,
right?
turn it off. Turn it off.
Okay.
If I'm drunk, I'm cranking that shit.
All right, now that is an acceptable answer. I will accept that. Your second song is Lit, My Own Worst Enemy.
Oh, man, we're definitely turning that song up as much as I hate that band.
You're turning it up.
I'm definitely cranking that song.
Timeless song. That came out in 2013 to be as big as it was.
I mean, the thing is that guitar riff is so easy but so catchy as shit.
Yeah. I used to love her, but I had to kill her, Guns N' Roses.
Anything pretty much from GNR except for the live version of, what is that song where there's a live record he puts out in the middle of it, or the GNR put out in the middle of it, acts like, can I get some reggae? And Guns N' Roses goes into this reggae breakdown, and it's the worst shit ever. And that's the only Guns N' Roses song I would turn off.
Was that a bootleg or something?
It's definitely. I've heard it. I even recently heard it on Pandora, so I know it's an official release song.
Okay.
It's actually it's a YouTube sensation. If you go on, the video is actually on YouTube, and you can watch and hear it actually say, "Can I get some reggae?" It's like the worst shit ever.
I'm gonna look up Guns N' Roses reggae and see what I find, and I'm also gonna go to.
Positive it will.
What was the laserbeam.com? What was the original domain?
Oh, Laserlink.
Laserlink. I want to see if they're still in business. All right,
Laserlink.com or laserlink.net.
All right, your fourth song is "Wake Me Up Before You Go Go" by Wham.
Turning that shit off.
Turn it off. Last song, "Story of My Life," Social Distortion.
I'm definitely turning it up. But that being said, I have to put a footnote that I've never been a big Social D fan.
You know what? I'm giving you applause for that. I purposely put that song in there because I wanted to discuss Social D just a little bit. Now, huge Bad Religion fan, huge NoFX, all those bands. I think I might have been maybe just too young or passed me by, but Social Distortion was just never a band that hit me. It's like I don't know. I guess I never really owned one of their albums, so I can't say for sure. But their songs never hooked me enough to check out an album, and people like put them on a pedestal as much as Bad Religion.
Um, I mean, I have to agree with everything you just said. I give the band, and I definitely give, yeah, it's sort of like, I mean, I'm gonna take another giant leap forward that like totally destroys any punk rock cred I have. I am not really. I won't actually. Here's a better way of putting it. I'm not a Misfits fan, but anytime my band is covered in Misfits, I fucking enjoy the shit out of it.
Yeah.
I like covering the songs, but I'm not a big fan of the band himself. And I think probably part of that is like the Misfits as a band, as I've actually seen them live, are just nothing like the original records. The original recordings. When they were the band, the original lineup. So I think that the way the band's been bastardized is kind of like changed my opinion of how I feel about the band, and I just haven't given the band as much, airtime as I normally would. So I won't say I'm not, and I think it's sort of the same thing with Social D. I mean, although no, I mean it's still Mike, and like he's still doing the same shit.
Yeah, no, I love Mike Ness as a singer, as a performer. Especially
I probably like his solo stuff a lot more than Social D, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm just talking. I think I'm talking about the legacy of Social Distortion, not so much like I like Story of My Life. I like I can't think of their other songs, but I'm into it. But I'm just talking about.
Here's the thing about Mike Ness, and I guess the best way I could put it in, and I've never been a huge Social D fan, is that Mike Ness is genuinely unique and he is important. And I think actually as a songwriter, I think he's really important. I think he's actually a great songwriter. I think it's really easy for people to like look past him as a talent because Social D records. I mean, you're not. It's. I sort of look at Bad Religion the same way, and I'm a huge Bad Religion fan. I mean, you could definitely pick. I would say like 2 or 3 records at a time, almost sometimes at times with Bad Religion. There was almost things that had to change within the band that like definitely made a difference in the band. Like for example, when Brooks, when the Process Belief came out, I felt like that was a huge change.
Oh yeah,
and that it was a major. I don't want to say turning point, but it was a really re-energized the band. Not just I think they the band would agree, but also like I think that most of the fans would agree that like the band, just the the whole feel of the band, not musically, but like the energy of the band changed, and that reignited my interest in the band.
Well, Brooks came in the band, and Brett came back to write songs on that.
Exactly. Those two things at the same time. Whereas, Brooks is by far the best, drummer the band's had. But, it doesn't, change the fact that, like, Against the Grain is my favorite Bad Religion record.
Sure.
And, like, the drumming on that is nothing like what Brooks can do. But, like, you get into, like, you saw a linear line from, like, Recipe to Hate the Stranger Than Fiction where, and those are both records I like, but they were definitely changing the band. They were getting, maybe I don't want to say away, but it just didn't have the energy or urgency to me.
Hold on now, don't lump Stranger Than Fiction into that.
I didn't say it was a bad record. I like that record, but you could see it was
a bad record. It's their best record.
I don't know. You're crazy. Process of Belief is a better record than that.
No way, man. You go track for track. Oh,
Nah. I can't jive with that.
Process of Belief, amazing album.
I think Stranger Than Fiction is a really, really good record. I think there's
zero bad songs.
As far as, in my opinion, and not that it means more than fucking any 2 cents, is that Stranger Than Fiction, I felt like as the record moves on, it was sort of a half-assed record. You could tell that not everyone was in it at 100%.
Oh, Jeremy.
In my opinion.
First of all, that was the first record that I heard, so you always have allegiance to the first record.
Well, exactly, and to be honest, for me, the first Bad Religion record that I really got into was Against the Grain, and that's why I like it, even though Suffer is definitely a better record, but Against the Grain is always going to be my Bad Religion
Right,
record.
but to me, Stranger Than Fiction, it's like all of their albums have the same birth and same song structure and same everything. Stranger Than Fiction to me, like it's them doing something completely different. I think the songs sound completely different than any of their other albums,
I mean, I mean, first admit that. To be honest, I think
and that doesn't make an album better. A
no,
lot.
but it definitely makes it different. And I mean, and that's something that can catch you. And I mean, for me, especially at that point in time, I think as far as my appreciation and love for Bad Religion was, you can listen to track one and go from the start to the finish on Against the Grain. And to me, I know the lyrics to all those songs on that record, even though I probably haven't listened to the record in like maybe at least maybe a year. And it'll be like that. But I've listened to that record, especially when I was a senior in high school, I listened to records so much. To be honest, there's not really a whole lot of different. To me, there's just 2-second pauses in the middle of songs, or in the middle of one giant song on that record. But yet, there are distinct parts of that record, and that's But as a whole, it's really not all that different from each other.
Right.
Whereas I think you see that they have definitely. Even after Brooks, I think they got a little stale. I don't want to say it. I don't want to even put it to the point where every time I feel like Bad Religion starts to do a little bit something different than what they're used to, what you're used to, then it's them becoming stale. It's just me becoming stale as a listener. That's a better way of putting it.
Do you think I'm a good father if on a Saturday afternoon I kind of swing my 9-month daughter around in the living room while blasting, Go to Hell with Superman and Die Like a Champion, Yahey?
As long as she's strapped in with appropriate protection.
Okay. Hey, I love when the conversation turns to Bad Religion, but we're going to stop here. Jeremy Myers, very excited you got to do JoeyRitter.com. Long time coming. Friend for a while. I appreciate it. Keep killing it, Jeremy.
No problem, man. Thanks a lot.
You got it.